Greetings once again, friends. My name is Peter, back from FunSpot, and with you for another episode of Retro Unscripted. As always, I thank all of you for taking the time to watch my videos on this channel, and this video in particular. It means a lot. So yes, I am back from FunSpot in one piece. I am sporting my tournament shirt, which you really can't see because it doesn't go well with the lighting in here. You can see the American Classic Arcade Museum logo at FunSpot here, and then the logo for the 16th annual tournament, which is here. It was a blast to be able to go back and just see the improvements made to the arcade since I was there last. Since I was there last, there are a lot more arcade games now than there were when I visited in 2002. There's now a really cool touchscreen display that shows the best scores logged for each machine and also the record holder. I'm actually one of the members of the American Classic Arcade Museum Wall of Fame, which is something I didn't know I was part of, but it was certainly neat to see my name in lights and to see that I still have house records for a couple of the arcade games there. That's certainly a big deal to me. It's a feather in my cap, as I'm one of a pretty select group of people. So that's really cool of them to do, and I appreciated that. My reaction to the tournament is mixed. While I certainly enjoyed going, and I certainly don't regret any of the time that I spent up there, I certainly got my fill of arcade games, that's for sure. I played over 200 games over the course of 4 days. Not 200 different games, but 200 games in total. So I don't regret that at all. I was a little disappointed to see that the two games that I did set records on, which were Seawolf and Mania Challenge, those games were not working at the time. And unfortunately, due to pressing needs with the tournament, those games weren't fixed before the tournament had ended. So I didn't get my chance, or a chance, to play those games and to defend my records on those machines, which was a little disappointing. The other thing that disappointed me was that this tournament format was different than when I was there in 2002. Now, I kind of had an idea it was going to be different because Twin Galaxies was not a part of this event. Obviously, with Jace Hall taking over Twin Galaxies and the rebuilding effort that's going on over there, record keeping and setting new records isn't something that's in the cards right now. But I still thought, at least for scores in the house, inside of the arcade, that they could be updated so people could play any game and feel like they were doing something. There was going to be some modicum of achievement or being recognized, some kind of recognition, and that just didn't happen this time. The way that the tournament was set up was there was 15 arcade games that were picked. They were all donations to the American Classic Arcade Museum. Some of them were familiar games like Timber, Bosconian, which you see behind me, and Space Invaders Part 2. But there are also lesser-known games. Crazy Kong, which I hadn't seen in a long time. A game called The End, which is a Space Invader clone. Armored Car was one of them. There was Stalker, which is a game from Bally Midway, which is a driving game, which I remember seeing in arcades briefly, but really didn't have a chance to play. So it was kind of a mix of games that were familiar and not so familiar. But being that there were 15 machines that you had to log scores on, and there were over 100 entrants, as the tournament wore on, the lines grew to be able to play these games and get qualified. And the other thing that was difficult was that if you weren't familiar with these games, you had no shot, because there was always a line of people behind you, so there wasn't an opportunity to practice once the games were unveiled. So quite literally, 3 or 4 of the games in the tournament, I only got a chance to play once, and those scores were the ones that stuck. So I really didn't have much of a chance to be anywhere in the upper echelon of the tournament, let alone anywhere near the top spot. So that was disappointing. Understandable, of course, but disappointing. They tried to extend that by having a manufacturer's challenge, which was a series of Atari arcade games, Video Pinball, which was by far the coolest, Quantum, Canyon Bomber, Night Driver, and Food Fight. Those are the ones that were in the Atari challenge. I did okay in that. I think I finished somewhere in the middle of the pack there. But still, the lines for those also extended pretty long. So if you didn't want to wait in line, you wanted to play games, you played those basically for fun rather than any kind of recognition, which was definitely a departure from the past, which was a bit disappointing, at least to me. It felt more inclusive back in 2001 and 2002, and Twin Galaxies was a part of it, and you felt that any game you played, you felt like you had a chance to be recognized. So it felt inclusive. This, unfortunately, did not. So that's really my biggest gripe. But getting around that and getting to the good stuff, there was a lot of it. Because there were a lot more arcade games to play, there was a bigger selection of stuff to get at. There was a nice bank of full motion video games, and I had talked about full motion video arcade games in an installment of Consolation, so I thought that was kind of neat to see with Astron Belt and Firefox, Space Ace, Dragon's Lair. Those games were all there and playable. There was also a nice bank of pinball machines, which I like to call Pinball Way. Some of the tables weren't exactly level, but what are you going to do? It was still neat to be able to play tables like F-14 Tomcat and High Speed and Pinbot and Big Guns, Playboy and Kiss and Close Encounters of the Third Kind and a bunch of others. And that was certainly great. There was a wealth of arcade games to play. And if you're just going to FunSpot and the American Classic Arcade Museum just to visit, I wholeheartedly recommend it. It gets you around the entry fee. You can spend as much or as little on tokens as you want, and there is an absolute ton to see. But going for the tournament, unless you don't mind waiting in line a little bit and kind of having the games thrown at you and not really sure how they're played, that may frustrate some people, and be aware of that as tournaments move forward. I can't really, I can't really complain about how the tournament was run. Despite the fact that there were lines for the games, the scores were logged automatically via tablet. FunSpot employees would record your scores and then verify them. And then Orcade, which is the establishment that works with FunSpot to kind of establish their high score database, posted rankings updated by the minute. So you knew exactly where you stood, not only in terms of the individual rankings for each game, but also for the tournaments overall. And that was kind of cool to see. You knew pretty much when your score was beaten by somebody else, and that prompted you to go back to that machine and try and beat their score, and that's what really fueled the competition for the event. And I liked that a lot. And of course, Orcade has helped the Arcade Museum get their Wall of Fame up and running, and that was cool too. So I love that part of it. The competition aspect of it was fantastic, and I loved that. I just wish that there was a little bit more inclusion that went on with some of the other games, because otherwise it just felt like they were side attractions and not really important, and that's too bad, because there were a lot of games up there worth playing, and there were some people that put in some really fantastic efforts on those machines. That's about it, really. I did post some videos from FunSpot here on the YouTube channel. I posted a Pete Plays of Star Trek Strategic Operations Simulator, which someone else filmed for me, which I really appreciate. I also posted a video that I took walking through Pinball Way, so you can see some of the pinball games that were there. I did that as a request from Ben Padden, who runs Port Center, which is a fantastic YouTube channel. He's also a RetroWare TV colleague. So thank you, Ben, for that suggestion. I'm glad that I could walk up and down the aisle and show that video off. And I also took some video of some significant or favorite games at FunSpot of mine that you could see and I could share with you. So make sure you check out the channel for those. I believe they're the Pete Plays one is pretty obvious, but one of them is called FunSpot Favorites, and I think the other one has Pinball Way in the title. I'll have to take a look. But check those out if you want footage from FunSpot. And if you haven't checked out my Instagram account, which is instagram.com/PeteSkerritt, PeteSkerritt, do so, and you'll see a bunch of pictures from inside FunSpot that you can take a look at, and it'll be kind of like you were there, except not quite as warm and the lines aren't quite as long. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Retro Unscripted. I know it's a bit off the cuff this week as I'm recovering from coming back from FunSpot. Make sure you check the channel as well for June's video log, which will be going up very shortly. Until the next time, friends, take care, and I will see you on the next episode of Retro Unscripted. See you then.